Something extraordinary is unfolding in the British royal family right now. And the paper trail, the court documents, the public statements, they're all pointing to a shift that nobody predicted 6 months ago. Here's what we know with absolute certainty. Prince Harry filed for judicial review of his security arrangements. That's public record. You can look it up. Then in October 2024, the UK government announced a fresh assessment. After losing a court case in May, after the Home Office won decisively, why would they reverse course? At the 30-second mark, I'm going to walk you through the specific language in the government statement that reveals what might really be happening. But first, we need to understand the timeline, because the timeline is everything. February 1st, 2020, Harry and Meghan release a statement. They're stepping back as senior royals. The word they use is interesting. They want to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Her Majesty. The palace responds within hours. We understand their desire for a different approach, but these are complicated issues that will take time to work through. Translation: this isn't going to be simple. March 2020. The transition period ends. Harry and Meghan are officially no longer working royals. Their security arrangements change immediately. Harry contests this. He argues that being born royal means permanent threat level, regardless of working status. The government disagrees. If you're not performing public duties, you fund your own security. That's the policy for non-working royals like Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie, Peter Phillips, Zara Tindall. Harry says his situation is different. He's the son of the king. He served in Afghanistan. He has a higher threat profile. The government says, then pay for private security. You have the money. This is where it gets legally complex, and understanding this matters at the 3-minute mark. The Home Office uses something called RAVEC, the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, to determine security levels. It's not just about who you are. It's about threat assessment, public role, representational duties, and risk to national security. When Harry stepped back, RAVEC reassessed. Their conclusion? Harry no longer meets the threshold for automatic government-funded security. He can still have protection when performing official duties at the request of the government. But day-to-day security? That's on him. Harry challenged this in court. The case was R versus Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures. The official title tells you how bureaucratic this is. Harry's legal team argued several points. 1. The decision was procedurally unfair. 2. The process was irrational. 3. The policy discriminates against him specifically. 4. His unique circumstances weren't properly considered. The government's defense was straightforward. The policy is clear. The assessment was thorough. The decision was rational. You're not a working royal, therefore you don't get working royal security. In May 2024, the High Court ruled in favor of the Home Office. Justice Peter Lane said the decision was, quote, not unlawful or procedurally unfair, end quote. The Executive Committee had, quote, rationally decided that the claimant's protection should be considered on a case-by-case basis, end quote. Harry lost. Decisively. Then, 5 months later, October 2024, something changed. The Home Office announced they would conduct a fresh assessment of Harry's security arrangements. Not because they had to, not because the court ordered it, but because, according to their statement, quote, circumstances have been considered, end quote. What circumstances? That's the question everyone is asking, and the answer might be in what happened during those 5 months, and this is crucial detail at the 6-minute mark. Let's look at Harry's movements. In June, he attended the Trooping the Colour, but only as a spectator. He wasn't on the balcony. He wasn't part of the official proceedings. He watched from a window at the Duke of Wellington's former office. In July, he returned to Britain for the WE Invictus Games anniversary. He stayed 3 days. He met with veterans. He gave interviews. He specifically said he'd like to spend more time in the UK but can't without proper security. August, he wrote an essay about missing Britain. It was published in The Telegraph. The language was nostalgic. He talked about British humor, self-deprecating banter, the camaraderie he misses. Royal experts called it the most wistful thing he'd written since leaving. September, Harry made a solo trip to New York. No Meghan. He attended UN meetings about landmines, his mother's cause. He spoke at the Dealbook Summit about mental health. He appeared on The Tonight Show, all without Meghan. October, the security reassessment was announced. Jack Royston, the Newsweek royal correspondent who has sources close to Harry, reported something significant. Harry has been in contact with British officials. Not just lawyers. Officials. Including David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary. Why would Harry need the Foreign Secretary? Foreign secretaries deal with international relations, diplomatic matters, policy. Unless Harry's situation has implications beyond just personal security. Unless he's discussing something bigger. Tom Sykes at the Daily Beast wrote that friends of Prince William are, quote, rattled, end quote. They thought the Sussex question was settled. Harry lives in California. He does his own thing. the royal family moves on. But the security reassessment suggests that assumption might be wrong. And if Harry is planning to spend significant time in Britain, that changes everything, and here's why this matters at the 9-minute mark. Prince William is in the middle of a generational transition. King Charles is 76. He's been diagnosed with cancer. He's still working, still performing duties, but the reality is that William is preparing to be Prince of Wales in a much more active sense than before. William has a vision for the monarchy. He calls it the Royal Family 2.0. Smaller, more efficient, more focused. Instead of dozens of working royals, you'd have a core group. The King, the Queen Consort, the Prince and Princess of Wales, maybe the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. Everyone else is a private citizen who happens to be royal by birth. This isn't radical, it's how most European monarchies work. The Swedish royal family has 5 working members, the Dutch have 6. Even the British system used to be smaller before Queen Elizabeth's generation expanded it. William wants to return to that model. It's more cost-effective, it's easier to manage, it's clearer to the public who's official and who's not. But Harry complicates this. Because Harry is still the king's son. He's still 6th in line to the throne, his children are 7th and 8th. You can't just pretend the Sussex family doesn't exist. And if Harry is in Britain more often, if he's doing public appearances, if he's making statements about the monarchy or the country or policy issues, then he's effectively operating as a royal without official status. That's the nightmare scenario for William. Not because Harry would be competing, though that's part of it, but because it muddles the message. Who speaks for the royal family? Who represents the institution? Who makes decisions? Right now it's clear. Charles is king. William is heir. They're the decision makers. But if Harry is in the UK, giving interviews, attending events, making headlines, then suddenly there's a third voice. An unofficial, unsanctioned, but still royal voice. And here's where the philosophy diverges completely, and this is essential context at the 12-minute mark. William believes in the institution. He was raised to believe in it. His grandmother spent 70 years modeling dedication to duty. His father waited longer than any heir in British history. William understands that being royal is about service to something larger than yourself. Harry has a different view. He said this explicitly in interviews. He thinks the institution needs fundamental reform. He thinks the media relationships are toxic. He thinks the palace system protects the institution at the expense of individuals. He's not entirely wrong. The system does prioritize continuity and stability over personal happiness. That's literally the point. The monarchy is supposed to be bigger than any one person. But Harry experienced that as oppressive. He watched his mother struggle with it. He struggled himself. Then Meghan struggled. And he made a choice. He chose family over institution. That's his right. Nobody disputes that. But you can't have it both ways. You can't leave the institution and also try to reform it from outside. You can't reject working royal status and also demand working royal privileges. That's the contradiction at the heart of this entire situation. Now let's talk about what we're actually seeing in public, because behavior patterns tell us things that statements don't, and this is revealing at the 15-minute mark. In 2024, Harry made 14 public appearances without Meghan. 14. Compare that to 2022, when he did 3 solo events. 2023, he did 5. The trend is clear. He's operating more independently. Meghan did 9 solo appearances in 2024. She attended the Children's Hospital L.A. Gala. She did a women's empowerment event in the Hamptons. She appeared at a bookstore opening in Montecito. She gave interviews about her lifestyle brand. These aren't joint appearances that happen to be scheduled separately. These are deliberately independent projects. They're building separate professional identities. Prince William and Catherine, by contrast, did 73 public engagements in 2024. 63 of those were joint appearances. That's 86% together. Even when they do separate events, there's coordination. William does conservation work while Catherine does early childhood. But they're both representing the same institution, advancing the same mission. Harry and Meghan's separation looks different. They're pursuing different projects with different goals in different venues. Some relationship experts say this is healthy. Couples need independence, individual identity, space to grow. Other experts say it signals distance. When couples who previously did everything together suddenly need separate projects, it can indicate underlying tension. Without being in their relationship, we can't know which it is. But we can observe the pattern. And the pattern has changed. Luella Alderson, a relationship therapist who specializes in high-profile couples, was quoted in several outlets analyzing Harry and Meghan's recent behavior. She used phrases like, quote, complex period, end quote, and, quote, testing different paths, end quote. These are therapeutic terms. A complex period means you're navigating difficulty. Testing different paths means you're not sure which direction to go. That's not crisis language, but it's not thriving relationship language either. And then there's the business situation, which is relevant because their financial stability affects everything else, and the numbers here are verifiable at the 18-minute mark. Meghan launched American Riviera Orchard in March 2024. The Instagram announcement got over 5 million impressions. Professional photography, aesthetic branding, celebrity endorsements from friends like Tracy Robbins and Delphina Blackhair. The brand sold jams, preserves, and lifestyle products. Meghan sent samples to 50 influencers. She had trademark filings for everything from yoga mats to pet products. But when products actually went on sale, the response was muted. We don't have official sales figures because Meghan's team hasn't released them. But several things are telling. 1. There were no sold-out announcements. When a product sells well, brands advertise it. Sold out in hours. Back in stock. Limited quantities available. We didn't see that. 2. No expansion announcements. Successful launches lead to line extensions, new products, retail partnerships. That hasn't happened. 3. The website went quiet. After the initial push, updates stopped. The Instagram hasn't been updated since September. For context, when other celebrities launch lifestyle brands, there's momentum. Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop does billions in revenue. Jessica Alba's Honest Company went public. Blake Lively's Betty Buzz secured major distribution. Meghan's brand hasn't achieved that trajectory. And that matters because Harry and Meghan's financial situation determines their options. They signed a $100 million Netflix deal in 2020. But Netflix has been frustrated with output. Harry and Meghan produced one documentary series about themselves. Netflix wanted more content, broader appeal, shows that weren't just about the Sussexes. Meghan's new show, With Love Meghan, was supposed to address that. It's a lifestyle program, cooking, hosting, gardening, entertaining, Martha Stewart territory. But early reaction to the trailer was mixed. Some people are excited. Others question Meghan's credentials. She's not a trained chef. She doesn't have a hospitality background. She's not famous for cooking. The comparison to Martha Stewart is instructive. Martha built her brand over decades. She had a catering business. She wrote books. She had expertise before she had a show. Meghan is starting with the show. That's backwards. And audiences can tell. The Spotify deal ended poorly. Harry and Meghan got paid, but Spotify executives were reportedly disappointed with their podcast output. One executive called them, quote, grifters, end quote, in an interview. That's harsh language from a corporate partner. So the financial picture is uncertain. The Netflix deal won't last forever. The Spotify deal is done. The lifestyle brand isn't taking off. Harry's memoir sold 6 million copies, but you can only publish one bombshell memoir. What's next? This is where the return to Britain becomes financially relevant. And this is crucial at the 22-minute mark. If Harry can establish a presence in the UK, he has value. He's a British prince in Britain. He can do speaking engagements, charity work, public appearances. There's a market for that. In California, he's just another celebrity. Los Angeles has actual movie stars, musicians, tech billionaires. Harry's royal status matters less when you're competing with people who are famous for actual achievements. But in Britain, being a prince means something. Even a controversial prince. Even an exiled prince. There's inherent value in that status. So, from a purely practical standpoint, spending time in Britain makes sense for Harry. It gives him relevance, it gives him purpose, it gives him an identity beyond Meghan's husband. And this brings us to the security issue from a different angle. It's not just about physical safety, it's about legitimacy. If the government provides security, it signals that Harry is important enough to protect, that he still matters, that he's still royal in a meaningful way. If they deny security, it's saying you're a private citizen. You're on your own. You're no different from any other wealthy person who needs bodyguards. That's why Harry is fighting so hard for this. It's not just about safety, it's about status. Now let's examine what happened in Los Angeles. Because this shows how public perception works, and this is significant at the 25-minute mark. Kitson is a boutique on Robertson Boulevard. It's been there since 1999. It's where celebrities shop, where paparazzi hang out, where tourists go to spot famous people. Every December since 2020, Kitson creates a holiday hypocrites window display. They feature public figures who embody contradiction between their public statements and their actions. 2020 featured people who violated COVID restrictions they publicly supported. 2021 featured politicians who changed positions. 2022 focused on environmental hypocrisy. This year, 2024, Meghan made the list, along with California Governor Gavin Newsom, George Clooney, and Katy Perry. The display put Meghan in a Santa hat labeled Montecito Diva. Store owner Fraser Ross told reporters why she was included, preaching privacy while doing tell-all interviews, promoting sustainability while flying private jets, talking about kindness while staff reportedly leave in tears, advocating compassion while estranged from family. Now, you can debate whether that's fair. Everyone has contradictions. Public figures live under scrutiny that magnifies every inconsistency. But here's what matters. This happened in Los Angeles, Meghan's home, the place she specifically chose after leaving Britain, the place where she was supposed to build her new life and career. And a prominent local business publicly mocked her. That's a measure of how local perception has shifted. In 2020, when Harry and Meghan first moved to California, there was goodwill. Celebrities defended them. The local community was welcoming. They were seen as refugees from an oppressive system. 4 years later, that goodwill has eroded. And we can measure it. Morning Consult does regular polling on public figures. In June 2020, Meghan's favorability among Americans who knew who she was stood at 41%. By December 2024, it's at 34%. That's a 7-point drop over 4 years. Not catastrophic, but definitely negative trending. Harry's numbers tell a similar story. June 2020, 45% favorable. December 2024, 38%. Also down 7 points. Compare that to William and Catherine. William was at 59% favorable in June 2020. He's at 57% now. Essentially stable. Catherine was at 63%. She's at 62%. Also stable. The Cambridge couple maintained public support. The Sussex couple lost it. That matters because public support translates to commercial viability, and this affects everything at the 28-minute mark. When brands decide whether to partner with celebrities, they look at favorability ratings. They look at demographic appeal. They look at trend lines. Meghan's numbers are declining among the exact demographic brands want. Women 25 to 54. Household income over $75,000. That's the premium consumer market. In June 2020, Meghan had 52% favorability with that group. Now it's 41%. That's an 11-point drop in the most valuable demographic. For comparison, when a celebrity has declining favorability, brands get nervous. They don't want controversy. They don't want their product associated with someone the public is turning against. This explains why American Riviera Orchard struggled. It's not just about the product. It's about who's selling it. And increasingly, people aren't buying what Meghan is selling. Harry faces different challenges. His brand is military service, mental health advocacy, and royal heritage. Those are still valuable. But his favorability has declined among veterans specifically, and that's his core constituency. In 2020, Harry had 61% favorability among U.S. veterans and active military. Now it's 47%. That's a 14-point drop. Why? Several reasons. Some veterans felt his complaints about royal life seemed privileged compared to what service members face. Some disagreed with how he discussed his military service in his memoir. Some felt he disrespected the institution by leaving. Fair or not, those are the numbers. And they matter because Harry's commercial value depends on authenticity with that community. Now let's look at a specific incident that illustrates all of this, and this is revealing at the 31-minute mark. In November 2024, Harry gave a speech at the British American Business Council event in Los Angeles. This should have been a friendly audience. British expats, business leaders, people with ties to both countries. The event coincided with the announcement that the 2026 World Cup would include games in the United States. There was built-in excitement, patriotic energy, good vibes. Harry's speech started well. He welcomed everyone. He made a joke about British people in Los Angeles. Polite laughter. Then he talked about the World Cup. He said, quote, "Next year I know we're all looking forward to welcoming many more fellow Brits from across the pond, provided they behave and make it through customs, past ICE," end quote. The room went quiet. ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. In the current political climate, it's a charged topic. Some people laughed nervously. Most didn't react at all. Harry continued. He talked about being British, about service and duty, about banter and camaraderie. The speech was fine. Not great, not terrible. Fine. Then he finished. And here's what's revealing. The applause was polite but brief. A few people stood up. Then a few more. Then more, but slowly, like they were checking if others were standing before they committed. It wasn't enthusiastic, it wasn't sustained, it was obligatory. Compare that to archive footage of Harry speaking in 2017 at the Invictus Games. The ovation started before he finished. People jumped to their feet. The applause lasted minutes. There was genuine energy and affection. 7 years later, at a friendly event in his home city, he got polite golf claps. That's not just about one speech. That's about accumulated perception. The public enthusiasm that used to follow Harry everywhere has diminished, and you can see it in real time. One attendee told a journalist it felt like everyone was, quote, being polite, end quote. Another said there was a, quote, collective reluctance, end quote. These are direct quotes from people who were there. Harry's royal sparkle, The intangible charisma that made him the fun prince has faded. Part of that is age. He's 40 now, not 25. Part is circumstance. He's no longer the cheeky spare doing military service. He's a married father living in California doing corporate speaking gigs. But part of it is choices. The way he left, what he said about his family, how he's conducted himself since. Those choices have consequences. And the consequence is that people aren't responding to him the way they used to. Which brings us back to the core question, and this is critical at the 34-minute mark. What does Harry actually want? Some royal experts think he wants back in, not full-time, not as a working royal, but as someone who has a role, a purpose, a connection to Britain. Others think he's stuck. He can't go forward in California because his brand isn't working. He can't go back to Britain because the bridges are burned. So he's in limbo, trying to create a third option that doesn't really exist. There's probably truth in both interpretations. Human motivation is complex. Harry can simultaneously miss Britain and not want to submit to the institution. He can love his brother and be angry at him. He can want security and resent needing to ask for it. Those contradictions don't make him unusual, they make him human. But being human doesn't solve the practical problems. Where does he live? What does he do? How does he support his family? What's his relationship with the royal family? These questions don't answer themselves. And time is running out for easy answers. Archie is 5, Lilibet is 3. They're forming memories, developing identities, asking questions. Soon they'll be old enough to understand the family situation, old enough to have opinions about it. What does Harry tell them about their grandfather the king? About their uncle the future king? About why they live in California while their cousins live in Britain? Those are hard conversations, and they're coming. King Charles has reportedly tried to maintain some connection with Harry. They've spoken on the phone. Charles has asked about the grandchildren. He sent gifts for birthdays. But Charles is also king. He has to think about the institution. He has to support William. He has to make decisions that aren't just about family but about the monarchy's future. Can he welcome Harry back without undermining William? Can he support Harry without appearing to condone what Harry said? Can he be a father and a king simultaneously? Elizabeth did it. She navigated family drama while maintaining the crown's authority. But Elizabeth had decades to establish her position. Charles is still establishing his. And William is watching all of this. He's preparing for kingship while dealing with a brother who publicly criticized him. He's modernizing the monarchy while that same brother potentially builds a rival presence. Royal historians say this is unprecedented in modern times. Yes, there have been royal feuds. Edward VIII abdicated. Princess Margaret had conflicts. But never has an immediate family member of the heir operated in this quasi-official, quasi-independent way. Harry is creating a new category. Ex-working royal, but still royal by birth. Critic of the institution, but still benefiting from association with it. Private citizen, but seeking government protection. It's unprecedented because it's contradictory. And contradictions are unsustainable. Something has to give. Either Harry fully commits to private life, gives up the security fight, and builds a career independent of his royal status, or he negotiates some return to Britain, accepts limitations, and finds a role within appropriate boundaries. The middle ground he's trying to occupy, where he's both in and out, both critical and connected, both private and public, that's not stable. It can't last. And the security decision will force the issue. If the government denies enhanced protection, Harry has his answer. Britain isn't an option. Stay in California. Build what you can. Move forward. If they grant it, then Harry has to decide what he actually wants to do with it. Come back part-time? Do what exactly? Under what terms? With what understanding from the family? These are the questions playing out in real time. The paper trail shows us the legal process. The polling shows us public opinion. The behavior patterns show us personal dynamics. What we don't see is the private conversations, the family discussions, the negotiations that might or might not be happening, the positions that are or aren't softening. But we'll see the results. The security decision will come. Harry will either spend more time in Britain or he won't. The dynamic with William will either shift or solidify. The public perception will either recover or decline further. And at some point, Harry and Meghan will make a fundamental choice about their marriage, their careers, their future. Maybe they'll stay together and figure it out. Maybe they'll grow apart. Maybe they'll find a sustainable balance. We don't know. They might not even know yet. But the trajectory is unclear, and unclear trajectories eventually demand clarity. So here's what we're watching for in the coming months. The security decision, which should come by early 2025, Meghan's Netflix show premiere and reception, Harry's public appearances and how they're received, any statements from the palace about Harry's status. And underneath all of that, we're watching a family try to navigate an impossible situation. A father trying to be king and dad. A brother trying to prepare for kingship while his sibling undermines him. A son trying to protect his wife while missing his country. A marriage trying to survive public scrutiny and private pressure. These are real people dealing with extraordinary circumstances. The crown jewels and palace walls don't make it easier, they make it harder. So the honest answer to where this goes is, we don't know. But we can watch the indicators, we can follow the patterns, we can read the documents and the polls and the reports. And we can recognize that whatever happens next will affect real lives, real children, real relationships. That's not entertainment. That's human beings trying to find their way forward in impossible circumstances. The next chapter is being written now, and unlike a TV show, there's no script, no guaranteed ending, no neat resolution. There's just time, and choices, and consequences. And we'll all watch to see what happens next.